Wulver Blade is a 2017 side-scrolling beat-em-up developed by Fully Illustrated and Darkwind Media, published by the latter and available on Switch, Xbox, PlayStation, and PC. The game takes place in 120 AD Britannia, as the Roman 9th Legion is moving north, conquering all in their path. Standing against them are the forest-dwelling Wulver clan, made up of Caradoc, Brennus, and Guinevere, who are hell-bent on freeing their fellow Britons and kicking out the Roman invaders as violently as possible. Their journey will take them across 8 levels of old-school brawler gameplay, hacking and slashing their enemies through forests, caves, villages, and Roman forts. Visually, the game is great to look at, with a well-illustrated comic book art style that, while exaggerated and cartoony, isn't lacking in blood and guts. The levels themselves are full of background details, including the other playable characters at times doing their own thing. The character animations, on the other hand, aren't quite as good looking, although this doesn't have an impact once the blade starts swinging, and is mostly noticeable when the characters are standing around talking. Speaking of which, the voiceovers are nicely in tone with the proceedings, with some good one-liners in combat from both friend and foe, as well as an appropriately aggressive delivery during cutscenes.
They are of the Dabiri tribe from the south.
Kalgakas, my old friend. Good to see you still fighting.
I do not know.
Meanwhile, the narrator, who also voices Caradoc, adds his own gravitas to the proceedings and keeps things grounded despite the over-the-top carnage.
Queen Boudica had bloodied the nose of the great emperor, and on her deathbed laid curse upon him. In retaliation, the 9th Legion marched north to confront the heathen horde once more. They had no idea what lay ahead of them.
Said carnage is punctuated by some pretty good sound effects and music that elevate the action and give it some added punch. Of course, all of that is just the icing on the gameplay cake. As I said before, the game is a beat-em-up in the style of Streets of Rage or Golden Axe. You select one of the 3 Wulvers, each with their own strengths and weaknesses. Caradoc is the most balanced, with the best defensive ability of the 3. Brennus, meanwhile, is a powerhouse with low mobility but improved grappling, including enemies that have been knocked down. Finally, Guinevere moves fast, can dodge up and down to avoid hits, and has additional aerial attacks, but can't take as much damage as the others, requiring a much more evasive playstyle. All 3 fight with light and heavy attacks, the latter requiring a heavy weapon that will slowly lose durability and can be dropped if you get knocked down while using it. You also have dash attacks, jump attacks, and the classic desperation move that hits everyone around you at the cost of your health. Besides this, you also have thrown weapons picked off slain enemies, larger two-handed spears and axes that break quickly but do tremendous damage, destructible objects that can be picked up, as well as the severed limbs and heads of your victims, and let me say that I haven't enjoyed bashing someone in the head with another guy's head this much since Shadow of Rome on the PS2. There are also environmental hazards like bonfires and spikes that I never got tired launching my foes into to gory effect. On the defensive side, you can block and dodge attacks, with a block done just before you get hit, triggering a brief bit of slow motion, allowing you to get some free hits in. As you carve up the Roman invaders, the blue rage meter below your health bar will fill up, at which point you can unleash some real hell on them with increased speed and damage, while you are not only immune to their attacks, but will also regenerate health for as long as it lasts. This encourages you to save it for when your health gets low to give yourself a second wind while surrounded by enemies. You also have the ability to call in a pack of friendly wolves to attack all the enemies on screen once per level, which will typically kill any regular enemy and do some decent damage to bosses. And make no mistake, you're going to need all these moves because the game really enjoys sending increasingly large groups of enemies at you, from traitorous Britons to Roman auxiliaries to the elite legionaries of the 9th itself. Crowd control becomes very important as they love to gang up on you and can knock your health down really fast if you get surrounded. So, while the mechanics may be somewhat bare bones and simplistic, you still need to pay attention as just spamming the attack button won't work forever. If I have any criticisms of the combat system, it's that the same button that you use to attack is also what you use to pick things up. This means that when you stand in a pile of weapons and bloody remains, you'll often end up picking something up when you intended to attack. Also, I found the timing on the parrying mechanic rather finicky. Often I'd end up taking a few hits before managing to do it, especially against bosses, and never felt I could reliably pull it off. Finally, the dodge requires you to hold the block button while double tapping the direction you want to evade, which I found a bit cumbersome compared to just hitting a single button. Another issue that might turn people off is the length. I managed to beat the story mode in about 4 hours, and I know that some might balk at such a short campaign. This is compounded by the fact that, and skip here if you want to avoid spoilers, During the last level, your Wulver heritage finally kicks in and you transform into a full-on werewolf, able to tear through armored legionaries like tissue paper. Unfortunately, the game ends soon after, just as you were really getting into being a death-dealing furry Grim Reaper. To compensate, you then unlock Beast Mode, which allows you to replay the campaign in werewolf form. Along with this is an arcade mode with limited continues, and various arenas to battle waves of bloodthirsty enemies to climb the leaderboards. There are also a variety of secrets and collectibles to find in the levels, unlocking diary entries from in-game characters, lore tidbits on the weapons you find, concept art, and notes on all the historical references. That last part really shows off the amount of care that went into the game, covering everything from the life and times of the ancient Britons to the standing stones and Roman fortifications that cover the landscape. A ton of research was done to get the details right, which is honestly impressive for what is ostensibly a simple action game. So, is Wulver Blade worth getting? For a fan of brawlers like myself, I'd say yes. The one caveat is the short length, in which case I'd still recommend it, albeit on sale. In either case, the fighting is simple but satisfying, the game looks and sounds great, and killing the invading Roman scum with the severed heads of their own allies is never not fun. On that note, this has been Zero Sum, and I will see you next time.
Those bastards will pay for this! These are our lands, our families, and our freedom! They will take no more from us. No Roman sees the morning sun! This night is ours! Kill them all!